The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing games are missing. Hey, what's going on? For BC, I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, this is, in fact, the aftermath of Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall. And there's some things I want to unpack. There's some things I want to discuss. But once again, as per usual, I got to be grateful. I got to show gratitude and just thank God for another one. Thank God for another live. Thank God for another chance to talk boxing with you guys because every day above ground is a blessing. Chance to get every time you get a chance to be in front of this camera, I talk to you guys, especially in live format, we can really have fun. I'm always thankful for it. So, lots to discuss, a lot of things I want to talk about. But before I get into that, program reminder. Uh, this Saturday, uh, we should be live for the Saudi card, but I'm not sure where the hell I'm gonna be. So I'm trying to figure that out. I know I won't be here, but yeah, you guys make the plans and join me for that one, and it should be a whole lot of fun. We always have my sound quality isn't great. Let me see something. Why would it not be great? How about now? Do I sound better now? It's probably because I have a lot of tabs on my computer open, just a lot of tabs, and I'm like closing them. But we should be live this weekend. Let me know how I sound, guys, because apparently my sound isn't great. Hold on. See, now y'all got me paranoid. Now I'm paranoid. This is an important live, man. I gotta make sure that we really press into this the way we need to press into this. Talking about Josh Taylor losing again, talking about Jack Catterall doing his thing. Yeah, that's what it was. I had way too many tabs open, so I had to close a couple. But nonetheless, good to be here. Good to see you, Falling Star in the building. Good to see you, Falling Star. Good to see my boy Shinobi in the building. Thank you guys so much for giving me the heads up. So look, I don't want to waste too much time. I want to get right into it. I got 3 talking points. I want to get through, and then we can go ahead and just talk about whatever after that. But we'll start off with Josh Taylor, right? Because you guys know that I love Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor is one of my favorite fighters, in boxing. That's been made no secret. I am the president of the Josh Taylor American Fan Club, and I have been since at least since 2019. And I'm the guy who coined the phrase. I'm still picking Josh Taylor against the field. I'm picking Josh Taylor against the field. I used to have a lot of fun back in 2019 when Josh Taylor won the World Boxing Super Series, because back then people didn't believe in Josh Taylor. They didn't think that he could beat Regis Prograis or win the tournament, and he did, and it was really fun time. I had a fun time covering it. So for that reason, I've always enjoyed his career, and I've always enjoyed talking about his fights. But we got to ask the tough, hard questions, the question I don't want to really ask, really and truthfully, which is, we look at his career, and we'll go to screen share now. Look at his career, right? Where is he? Josh Taylor, right? So 19-2, 13 knockouts, right? His last 2 losses officially on paper have come in his last 2 fights. He got absolutely he got clinically outboxed by Tio, and Teofimo Lopez was styling all over him back last June. Then he lost to Jack Catterall, his arch nemesis, and then even before the Tio fight, I thought, and many others thought, that Jack beat him in the first fight. So you could really look at it as the fact that Josh Taylor has lost his last 3 fights, and he has failed to recapture the form of this fight right here against Jose Ramirez. And really and truthfully, for being honest about Josh Taylor, after the Prograis fight, so Taylor wins the Prograis fight. He wins the World Boxing Super Series in 2019. At that moment in time, he is quite possibly one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in boxing. He's everything you ask for in a fighter, right? Fighting the best guys, not wasting time, not marinating fights, fighting the guys when they're at their prime, at the peak. Because he beat peak Prograis, not like Devin Haney. He beat peak Prograis, right? So after he beats Prograis, he gets rid of his trainer, Shane McGuigan, right? And after he gets rid of Shane, you start to see a gradual decline. And I think Josh Taylor's career is a good example of, like, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? So he left. There's many reasons why he left Shane. One of the reasons was that he wanted to become more of a technical fighter, right? Which it paid off. You got Ben Davison for the Apinon Kong Song fight, and then Jose Ramirez. He became undisputed, right? So it paid off in that regard. But that mean, nasty, spiteful Scotsman that was able to become undisputed champion, you started to see that guy slowly but surely wither away. And as the fights began to come in for Josh Taylor, you know, he I think in the last 3 years, just leaving Shane McGuigan, trying to reinvent the wheel with his style. Also factor in, he probably shouldn't even have been at 140. He shouldn't even have stayed at 140 for the Catterall fight because he couldn't make the weight. All these things played a role. And I feel like Josh Taylor has lost his essence as a fighter. He lost what it is that made him successful. And to his credit, you know, in this fight, in spots of the fight, you got to see kind of like that old nasty Scotsman, but it was just too few and far between. And you know, it was a close fight, but it's not the Josh Taylor of old, right? So he has two options. Taylor has three options really. He could either, maybe him and Bob Arum and the Fine Folk at the top rank, maybe they do the Catterall rematch, and they could do a trilogy fight because there's enough people out there in the world. I know my boy Sean Santian is one of them, but I know there's enough people out there in the world that think this fight was close, and now on paper it's 1-1. You can do a trilogy fight, and I think a third fight in Saudi with neutral judges could be something attractive for both parties involved, right? If not that, then I'll move to welterweight. I'll move to welterweight to option, and then the third option, which might be the most pertinent option at some point in time, from which is to retire, because there really is nothing more to achieve for Josh Taylor. He's been the undisputed champion. I mean, he's reached a peak that few fighters' history will ever reach. So I don't want it to be the end for Josh Taylor. I love Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor is one of my favorite fighters, but whatever happened with Shane McGuigan, I feel like if he's gonna be the fighter that he once was, he needs to go back to who brought him there. You know, this Joe McNally guy and Ben Davison and these kind of trainers, these are not the guys that made Josh Taylor Josh Taylor. The guy that made Josh Taylor was Shane McGuigan. So I know the McGuigans have been in a bunch of lawsuits before. I know there's been a lot of issues in the past with fighters and bad business on their end, supposedly. So, you know, I don't know if they'll be able to overcome those kind of things, but I would like to see Josh Taylor and Shane hook up again as fighter trainers. He's never been the same. Literally, since he left Shane, he's never ever been the same fighter, and it's been tragic. Luckily for him, when he fought Jose Ramirez, the reality is Jose Ramirez is just not anywhere close to as good as Josh Taylor, so it didn't matter. He could have had me training it for Jose Ramirez. He would have beat the brakes off Jose Ramirez. But once he started stepping up to like real fighters like Teofimo Lopez and Jack Catterall, you know, it didn't work out for him. So it is what it is. I hope it's not the end, but it sure as hell looks like it. We got my man Idel Perez out from Compton. Good to see you, Idel. Hope all is well. BT, who do I got? And Benavidez versus Yard. They're not fighting. That's a good fight though. I like that fight. I'll go Benavidez. Lord Zed, good to see you, champ. Hope all is well. So yeah. So Taylor has options. He's got things he can do with his career. He's got ways to maneuver. But I think if he wants any shot of recapturing his former glory of three years ago, or anything kind of close to that, being the fighter that became undisputed, I think the best option for Josh is to go ahead and you know, get on the phone with Shane McGuigan, whatever problems they have, hash them out, because when he really had it going, when he was really Josh Taylor, that's who was in his corner. Everyone else is trying to, you know, make him too civilized. They try to make him too much of a boxer. And what's crazy is by Josh Taylor trying to be more of a boxer, he naturally does not have defense from the outside. So by him trying to stay on the outside and not being no great defensive fighter, he's staying on the end of fighters' punches. So Jack Catterall and Taylo are able to extend and get full leverage on the punches, as to where when he was with Shane McGuigan and he was the spiteful Scotsman that was willing to go balls to the wall and just was himself, he was smothering you a lot more, using that physical frame at 140 to push you back. And we just haven't seen enough of that since the Jose Ramirez fight. So that's really been the biggest thing for me with Josh Taylor. And like I said, I'm not happy he's losing. I like him. You know, it is what it is. Shout out to my guy Kevin Effect. Good to see you. He says, has Josh Taylor been the same since MTK fell? I mean, I never thought of it that way you presented it to me, but now that you say it that way, nah, not really. Not really, man. Dale Kidhead go under, Josh Taylor go under. Maybe there's a correlation. Who knows? Who knows, man? But that's a good point. So I mentioned the fact that Josh Taylor has an option here, and the other option is a move to welterweight, which he should have probably made 2 years ago. But God's timing is better than our timing, right? So if he's going to move to welterweight, there's one fight in particular that I think he needs to look at it real good. I think it's a fight that he can win. I think it's a great fight for the welterweight division because it would give each fighter that I'm about to mention a chance to get something out of fighting each other. And that fight is this fight right here. Josh Taylor versus Giovanni Santian. This is the fight. If Josh Taylor is going to go to 47, and if he's going to go try to make anything of himself at that weight class, I think this is the fight that he needs to be looking at. And I think this is the fight that he needs to be exploring because we look at Giovanni Santian. I like Giovanni Santian. He's still one of my favorite fighters to watch in the welterweight division. Giovanni Santian just got absolutely abused every way, sideways against Brian Norman Jr. He took the kind of beating that takes fights and potentially even years off your career in life. So he needs a big comeback win. I think to put him in there with anybody that's like a top contender right now would be even asking a lot. So him fighting a guy coming up from 40 who's got a name in Josh Taylor, to me, makes a lot of sense. Taylor's a top-ranked fighter. Santian's a top-ranked fighter. Now, from the Taylor side of things, Santian is really good because Santian's a higher-level contender. Santian is the kind of guy that, is good enough to beat him, but has enough vulnerabilities to where you feel Josh Taylor could exploit him. We know Giovanni Santian comes forward. We know Giovanni Santian likes to mix it up. We know Giovanni Santian does have leaky defense at times. So a win here, I think, would begin at least, I think, to change the conversation a little bit about Josh Taylor and get him back to winning ways against a good, credible contender and top 15 guy in Giovanni Santian. And then maybe if he beats him, he could fight a Conor Benn, or he can go fight maybe if the Top Rank want to do an in-house fight, him and Brian Norman Jr., they can go that route. But he can't get to even those fights if he can't beat a guy like this. And if he can't beat a guy like this, then he needs to hang it up. That's really where I'm at with him. And I'm not saying that out of anger. I'm saying that just out of being realistic and being a Josh Taylor fan. So I like that fight a lot for Josh Taylor. I think that'd be a good fight too, like business-wise, if you're looking at like what that fight could do on the West Coast. I don't know if that fight could be a main event, like in a big venue. It won't be not in a big venue, but like you put it in a smaller venue. Like if you were to put it, let's say, I don't know, put it somewhere like in LA, somewhere or San Diego where Giovanni's from, in a smaller venue. It could do. I think it could sell well because Giovanni Santian can sell tickets on the West. Josh Taylor is a known fighter around these weights. Mexican fight fans are going to know who he is from the Jose Ramirez fight out West. So I think it ticks a lot of boxes. I think it makes a ton of sense. And I think the winner of this fight gets a chance to have a second revival in their career. The loser of this fight has to consider, maybe hanging it up. And so these are the kind of fights. These are the kind of fights that I feel bring out the best in fighters. When a fighter's back is against the wall and they got to really pull out every last fiber of their being and skills to get over the hump because it's desperation time. Desperation makes it could bring anybody to a new level, not just in boxing, but in life. If you're desperate in life, if you're broke as a joke and you ain't got nothing going for you, you get desperate. Life, credit is bad. Wife ain't happy. A bunch of shit could be going not your way, but you don't know until you get into those moments what you really have, and you're going to be desperate to get out of that situation. So you're going to try harder. And it's the same thing with being in one of these kind of fights. So I think maybe this fight don't even got to be a main event. Maybe it could even be like a fight where you put it on as a co-main event of a bigger fight, But either way, I think it's a viable fight. It's a fight that's got a purpose. It's worth people's time and attention, and I think it's a fight that people need to look into. And when I say people, I mean the fine folks at Top Rank, those guys, honestly. So that's really how I'm feeling about Josh Taylor. I hope it's not the end, but it sure as hell is looking like it. So that's all I have. That's all I have to say, honestly, about Josh Taylor. But let me go to the comments. My man, Raw Dog says Giovanni Santian fought a bad game plan. What do you think his game plan should have been against Brian Norman Jr.? I don't think he tried to do anything that he doesn't always do. Like Giovanni Santian didn't reinvent the wheel that fight. He was like, what did the coach say? What did the NFL coach say? He said they were who he thought they were. He was who he thought he was. He was a come forward, volume, pressure fighter that if you let him get off on you, will throw 4, 5, 6 punches. That's the kind of guy he is. And in being the guy that was right there in the pocket, especially from the southpaw stance, Brian Norman Jr. seemed to have a really good level of comfort with southpaws. So he was sitting right there, just right there in the pocket. And Brian Norman Jr. was able to flash that power, just that straight right hand on the middle every single time, because Gio's head is right there on the center line. So I don't know what game plan do you think he could have fought? I know, like, I've heard Timothy Bradley say before that Giovanni Santian didn't always fight the way he fights now. I've heard, not just from Timothy Bradley, but other people I know out west, that Giovanni Santian in his younger years, he actually wasn't no come forward fighter. It wasn't until he got with Robert Garcia that he became that kind of fighter. He used to be a fighter that got on his toes and boxes, was a bit more cuter with his style, but maybe he needs to go back to that. BT, on the last live I mentioned if Bam wasn't fighting Guile next, they could have been on the rumored Mexico versus USA card. Turns out they have rematch clause, RGBA awards, so that is still possible. Okay, I mean, it's a good fight. I'm to the point in boxing where I'm getting tired of rematch clauses. I'm getting tired of all these every big fight has a rematch clause. But look, I think they put that in there. They being Robert Garcia, they put that in there knowing that it's a level of respect. Like, they know what Guile brings to the table. They know that Dan could lose that fight, so they're showing him respect, because if he does lose that fight, they're gonna want a chance to win it back. And it's a great fight for the sport. It's a great fight for the lower weight classes. He pressed too much gas and didn't seem to consider being defensive. No, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, from what I've heard and researched about him, and even older fights I've watched, he wasn't always like completely this fighter. He used to have a bit of a different style. So maybe he needs to tweak some things, not change himself, but tweak some things before a Josh Taylor fight. Roach's chin is terrible, I think. How do you let Santian knock you out? I mean, Santian threw like 6 left hooks or 6 right hooks in a row. He was Roy Jones Jr. in that fight. Is Kelly even active? Talking about Josh Kelly? Josh Kelly's at 154, because Supporter of Boxing said that Josh Taylor should fight Santian or Josh Kelly. Now, I would like Josh Taylor versus Josh Kelly, but the thing is, Josh Kelly's a 54-pounder now, and he's highly ranked. So they're not in the same. They wouldn't even be in the same weight class. So unfortunately, that fight's not going to be a possibility for Josh. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Those are my thoughts on Lloyd said Ricky Burns won in September. Maybe he would be good for someone to fight. Yeah, throw Ricky Burns in there with Josh Taylor. Do a Scottish boxing extravaganza, spectacular. Now, why not? Boxing loves to make these old guys fight. So why not get Josh a win? But look, that's what I'll say about Josh Taylor. As far as Catterall, there's a lot to unpack with Jack Catterall, because Jack Catterall is now, I feel, with the win over Josh Taylor, on paper, now he's in a power position to really make some noise in the division and make some big fights happen. The 2 fights I feel for Jack Catterall are the most realistic is, as far as big fights, Teofimo Lopez and Subdan Matias. These are now real fights to make it 140 for him. Now, let's unpack that. Let's unpack all this, because you got our main man right here, the fighting pride of Chorley, Lancashire. Our main man, Jack Catterall, 29-1. He's done the Lennox Lewis. He's done the guy with Strada, where, yeah, he's got a loss, but he avenged that loss, and he can now claim what Guy with Strada and Lennox Lewis can claim, which is the fact that nobody's got one over on Jack Catterall. Every man he has fought, he has defeated in the ring. Every man that ever stepped in that ring with Jack Catterall under the lights tasted defeat at some point or another. Now, as far as him, the reason why Subriel Matias is one of the main fights for Jack Catterall is because when you look at the rankings, a quick survey of the rankings will show you that Subriel Matias is the champion, right? You got Hitchens, who's number one. Now, Hitchens is not keen on fighting any longer in the IBF rankings. He's made a big deal and routinely highlighted the fact that the 10-pound IBF rehydration clause is really something that has him cautious about wanting to progress forward into a Subriel Matias fight. So let's not even count Hitchens because he don't even want to fight for the title, right? Number 2 is empty, and then number 3 is Jack Catterall. So really, in the de facto sense, Jack Catterall really is your number 1 contender for the IBF. So Subriel Matias has a fight. He's going to be fighting Liam Paro in a couple weeks out there in Puerto Rico. He has to win that fight. You can't overlook anybody. You got to focus on your fight before you not make your fight, like as the great Terrence Carver once said. But if he takes care of business, then I think, a potential Jack Catterall fight would be a great fight. It's an in-house fight. It's matchroom versus matchroom. You'd have Subriel Matias against another southpaw, although I think this southpaw, Jack's a bit of a different type of a southpaw than, let's say, a guy like Ergashev or Jukambayev. Ergashev and Jukambayev have more of that Central Asian southpaw style, as to where with Jack, he's got some of the textbook British style, but then he also has some American tendencies. So Jack's got an interesting style. Jack's not a knockout puncher, but Jack's not feather-fisted, and Jack's a very, very sound defensive fighter, and Jack's a good counter puncher. He's a very well-rounded fighter. And I think probably one of the harder guys to work out in the 140 division, right? So, and the way you can look at it too is like Jack Catterall, I thought he beat Josh Taylor the first fight. So, and then he got the decision over Josh Taylor in the second fight. So really, you could look at him as undefeated, and you could look at him as the uncrowned, undisputed champion of the weight class. So to me, Jack Catterall versus Subriel Matias is a big fight. It's a huge fight for the division, because if you look at Isaac Cruz, right? Isaac Cruz is fighting Raul Valenzuela. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with Cruz in that WBA belt. I've heard before and through the grapevine that it's possible he might vacate that title at some point. So who knows how long he keeps that belt. Then you got Devin Haney, who cannot make the weight. You can tell he's having a hard time making the 140 limit. He'll be a 47-pounder sooner rather than later. So I would think in the next year or so, he's not even champion no more, right? So this division is going to change, and I think Jack Catterall versus Subriel Matias will actually wind up becoming not just one of the most important fights that can happen right now at 140, but one of the most important fights in the 140 division of the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, because you got a guy, Matias, who's been starved out of the big fights, who can't get the Teofimos, who can't get the Devin Haney's and the Isaac Cruz's in the ring right now because they don't see the financial risk, the financial incentive to fight him right now. So the Jack Catterall fights like a Super Bowl, because he's fighting a guy that just beat Josh Taylor, a guy that is looked at by many as the young crowned undisputed champion, and it's a great style matchup. So I like that fight a lot for Jack and whatnot. And then apart from Matias, right, just apart from him, then you have this man right here, who right now, as we speak, he beat Josh Taylor for the lineal title. So whether you like it or not, this man, Teofimo Lopez, one of South Florida's very own, even though he don't like to claim it sometimes, he is the man who beat the man, and he's fighting June 29th down here in South Florida, in his home, near his hometown, against Steve Claggett. So that should be intriguing. Looking forward to see how Teofimo bounces off the heels of a very underwhelming performance against Jermaine Ortiz. But look, when you look at Teofimo's career, you look at he's been a very up and down fighter. Like Lomachenko gave him problems, even though he beat him. He gave him the problems on the back half of that fight. Jermaine Ortiz had Teofimo Lopez look horrible. He showed in his career many times that movers give him trouble. That guys that can move and box and counterpunch, they can make Teofimo Lopez look like an ordinary fighter, right? So Jack Catterall, I would say, not only is he a mover, I would say out of all the guys that Teo's fought, Sandor Morin as well, out of all the guys Teofimo Lopez has fought, the Sandor Morin, the Jermaine Ortiz, that type of style, Jack Catterall does everything those guys do on another level, better, right? So this is a fight to me where if Teofimo Lopez were to take this fight and win this fight in like impressive fashion, I have to look at Teofimo Lopez in a different way, because Jack Catterall is one of the hardest guys in this division to work out. Teofimo Lopez has a hard time cutting the ring off against movers, and especially southpaw movers like a Sandor Martin. So, hell of a fight. And look, these guys have history. These guys have gone back and forth on Twitter before. Look, this is an exchange from 2022. This was not too long after the Josh Taylor fight the first time in 2022. Teofimo Lopez tweeted in 2022. He said, "Man, I asked for Jose Ramirez and all the top heads at 140. We're still discussing on the fire. These fighters don't want nothing to do with me. Shake my head. And Josh Taylor is a whole bitch. Man's protected like he's in witness protection. I was born in the wrong era." And then Jack Catterall said, "I agree. He's a bitch. He won't fight me, so he won't be fighting you anytime soon, but we can get it on it in the meantime." And the Teofimo said, "I'm down." And then Jack Catterall said, "I didn't expect anything less. Tell your team to contact me directly, and we can get on it." Teofimo said, "On it now. Just don't flip the switch on me." And then Jack said, "There's no switch flipping. I'm not the Tartan tornado asshole. I don't hide from anyone. I'm self-managed, so I'll wait the call. Have a good weekend." And then there you go. So there you go. So that was 2 years ago, and now here we are, and that fight makes a lot of sense now. Now look, this is also May 26th. Well, yesterday, right? Just yesterday, Jack Catterall tweeted this. This is so he tweets a GIF of The Rock, for the millions and millions of Jack Catterall's fans. He tweeted this GIF of The Rock saying, "Just bring it," and then he at Teofimo Lopez. So this is a fight where both these guys have discussed it. It's been talked about many times before, and I think if Jack Catterall wins now, okay, look, Jack Catterall didn't get the luxury, didn't get the honor to be called the undisputed champion because that was taken from him. But at least now, if he were to fight a guy like Teofimo Lopez and beat him, at least he's the lineal champion, and that could be a consolation prize for Jack. So it fight makes a lot of sense. I think Teofimo Lopez needs to really have at some point in his career an impressive performance against the kind of style that Jack brings to the table. Or like the guy, because he didn't look good. He didn't look good against Sandor Martin. He didn't look good against Jermaine Ortiz. And those fights showed that as Teofimo Lopez on his day, we all know when Teofimo Lopez gets it going, he's as good as anybody out there. But those fights have shown that as fantastic as he is a limited fighter. So he has to show the world that he's not a limited fighter and that those were aberrations. So that's what it is. But let me get to your guys' comments. Shout out to everybody here. Make sure you smash that like button. It's your boy BT, the Untouchable, True School Sports Empire, live late at night here on the East Coast. Close it. By the way, guys, I want to thank you guys. This month has been like the most successful month on the channel in the last 6 months, and the channel is growing and closing on 75K. That's amazing, right? It's beautiful times here. I'm doing great. You got Sean Tatel, who just started his channel. He got 10,000 subscribers in 2 months. And I told Sean he was going to be successful. So good to see him doing this thing. You got other great channels here on YouTube. You got like the Boxing Boys. You got a lot of great channels. Just a lot of great channels. You got Boxing on the Edge, who I'm a big fan of. You got Miracle Boy Boxing. Who else do I be watching sometimes? So there's a lot of good channels. A lot of good channels. KO Christie, of course. Who else have I been watching? So there's a lot of good channels, right? So boxing's in a good space. People are doing a great job covering the sport, and we should all be happy about that, right? But anyway, let me go ahead and get to these comments. Kevin Effect says Catterall versus T.O. low key. I want to see that fight. It's a great fight. I know a lot of people keep talking about Jack versus Regis Prograis. Jack versus Regis Prograis is a cool little fight. It's a cool little fight, man. But I feel like Jack lost some valuable time because, first of all, he's self-managed. So that right there makes it harder for him to get fights because it's just harder. And then on top of that, when you look at just of his style is hard to deal with. So unless fighters have a reason to fight Jack Catterall, oftentimes they're not going to fight Jack Catterall. That's just how it goes for guys like him. So It is what it is. Oh, another channel I wanted to give a shout out to that because I've watched his content here and there, and I've really been enjoying it. Is this new channel? His name is and he's got the same name as me, Brendan Unboxing. Make sure y'all go check him out. He's got like 1,000 subscribers. I've seen a couple of his videos. Very good stuff. So yeah, but yeah, Jack Catterall is a difficult style to deal with, and odds are you will lose to him. So he lost kind of about a year and some change of his career. Some of that is his fault though, because Jack could have fought Shojahan Ergashev for the IBF Eliminator. He chose not to, which actually wound up being the right move, even though I thought it was kind of a coward move. But it is what it is. LOL, Haney at 140. Who can he fight without getting knocked out? Broner? Well, Broner's not at 40. Broner's a welterweight, so he can't even fight him. If Broner came to 40, he would be weight drained. Absolutely weight drained. Shout out to you. Good to see you, man. Glad you caught the live. Ernie V, shout out to you, man. Good to see you. Salute. Kevin Effect says, I'm very disappointed with the IBF. I was excited for Hrgovic. Now he has to keep waiting. Yeah, that's how it goes, man. He's the most ducked and avoided fighter in boxing. And look, telling you guys, man, he's gonna have his day. I was hoping his day would come this weekend, and they put the belt on the line. I don't know if the IBF has made, and maybe y'all can tell me because I haven't seen the news if there has been any news, but I haven't heard a ruling from the IBF about what they're gonna do with the IBF title, because initially they mandated months ago that the belt was going vacant for this Dubois fight, and the winner of this fight would fight Anthony Joshua at Wembley in September for the IBF title, right? As the champion going into Wembley to fight Joshua, who would in that situation be the challenger. But now, Alexander Krashiak, Usyk's manager, he filed an exemption, which to me, guys, honestly, and it didn't dawn on me till recently that I think fighters and managers being allowed to file exemptions is one of the most horseshit things in boxing. I didn't like it when Venado Lopez was trying to do it again and freeze out Rhea Abbey. I don't like it now with Filip Hrgovic. Why should a mandatory challenger who earned the right to position be forced to wait longer? Because why? There's a bigger money fight. No, you have rankings, you have the mandatory system so that the mandatory challengers get their shot. Because if it was just left up to the business of boxing, the guys who are the mandatory challengers like Filip Hrgovic and Rhea Abbey would never get a shot. So that's why you have that in place. But they don't even want to honor their own systems. So it is what it is. By the way, yeah, Raw Dog, unfortunately, I did pick Tyson Fury. I wasn't really comfortable picking against either one of them because they're both great fighters, but Usyk showed why he's the baddest man on the planet. I'm hoping at some point So Malcolm Xbox says, how come you never explained the full story of what happened in Nicaragua? It seemed like you were impassioned to go in on how y'all were wrong. Because I'm doing a video on that soon. I'm doing a video on it soon. The reason I haven't talked about it is because, first of all, I just, maybe in the last like 3 or 4 days, I stopped being angry about it. I stopped being angry about how my friend was mistreated in Nicaragua. So I had to cool off emotionally, and then the only reason I haven't talked about it in depth is because I haven't went back and watched the fight yet. So I'm actually going to be doing that. I'm making that video tomorrow. So that video should be out either tomorrow or Wednesday. I'm going to do a whole video after I watch the whole fight and take my notes and have my own observations now that I'm settled down. And then I'm going to really get into what happened in Nicaragua with Eric Lenses Jr. and what I really do feel could quite possibly be. We'll see. I have to go back and rewatch the fight a second time, because sometimes when you see a fight a second time, it looks different. So it might just be the robbery of the year. It might be. It might be the most corrupt thing I've seen. So when I watch the whole fight, that's when and I drop the video. That's where it'll be explained. All I can say is right now is that he got extremely mistreated. by the Nicaraguan media and the commission out there, despite the fact that he is Nicaraguan. So that's where I'll leave it until I do my video. Shout out to my guy Felipe. Shout out to you, Felipe. I did see your call earlier. I will call you back soon. He said great content. Thank you, Felipe. And one of the things I wanted to say too was this. I really want Hrgović to get the shot at the belt against Dubois, because and maybe this is wishful thinking, because I think Usyk is probably going to retire after the Fury rematch, but I really want to see Usyk versus Hrgović. I think Hrgović could beat Usyk. I really do. I think even more than a Fury. I think style wise he matches up very well with Alexander Usyk. Why? Because look at what you got to ask yourself the question. What advantage does Usyk normally have over his opponents? If you look at Joshua, look at Fury, look at anybody he's fought for the most part, is that he has a real tricky style, that tricky Eastern European style with the footwork. It troubles a lot of fighters from the UK and America, the USA. Hrgović from Croatia, he's seen that style in the amateurs a million times. He was in training camp with Vladimir Klitschko when he was like a teenage, or like a young 20-year-old in his early 20s. He knows the Ukrainian style very well. So that unpredictability factor that Usyk has over most opponents is not going to be there against Hrgović. That's part one, right? The second part of it is Usyk is way more technically sound than a guy like Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is a technically sound guy. He's not as technically sound as Usyk. Same goes for like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury very good, but not as technically sound as Usyk. Hrgović, I think, as far as his technique and his boxing fundamentals, like Usyk's not just gonna outbox Hrgović like everybody thinks. He's too experienced. Usyk's gonna have to win in a bit of a different way, kind of like he did with Fury, maybe, right? But the thing is, right? The thing is, and this is what I really want to harp on when it comes to Hrgović is like, okay, has he looked the best in these fights against like Zhang? No, but he won the fight. And if anything, the Zhang fight gave me more encouragement about Hrgović. Why? Because in that fight, he showed me winning intangibles, the stuff you can't measure in big fights, the stuff that's not on paper, right? So like, look, you look at okay, we don't know what's gonna happen with Hrgović and Daniel Dubois this weekend. Maybe Hrgović wins, maybe he loses. We don't know. But based on their careers up to this point, look at Daniel Dubois. He's got all the physical gifts, big, strong, can punch, all that stuff, right? So if he's big and he's strong and he can punch and he's got the perfect frame for heavyweight, he's got everything you could ask for from a physical standpoint. Why does Daniel Dubois keep coming up short in these big fights? Because Daniel Dubois doesn't have winning intangibles. He doesn't have, like, he's not willing to, at least to this point in his career, because I want to give him that respect. You don't know what's going to happen on Saturday. But he's not willing to potentially take punishment to dish it out. If you frustrate a guy like Dubois too much, he will inevitably say, you know what? I've had enough. I can fight another day. That's the kind of fighter he has been in his career from a psychological standpoint. Now, look at Hrgović. He fought Zhang. Zhili Zhang is one of the most dangerous heavyweights in the world. Many people didn't know it at the time they fought, because he couldn't get fights either. He was kind of like had a Hrgović type of career as well. But Zhang is a very destructive puncher and a very good timing at the southpaw stance, tall, can physically match Hrgović. And what did Hrgović do when Hrgović got put in those very uncomfortable moments? Did Hrgović like cower? Did he not try to win, or did he bite down on his gumshoe and did he go for the win? When shit got hot and it wasn't like his best night of the office, he bit down on his gumshoe and he found a way to win, and he tried to win at least, right? So you look at these things. That's what makes that, to me, just that little intangible right there. That's one thing about Hrgović. That separates him from guys like Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois and some of these other heavyweights that boxing fans like to prop up and for lack of a better term, dick ride to no end. You guys prop fighters up that when they get asked the tough questions, they fold. And I like Joshua. I'm speaking as a Joshua fan too. Joshua has had moments in his career against Andy Ruiz, and even like Usyk, that when shit got hot in there and he had to bite down on that gum shield to get over that hump, he didn't even try. He didn't even try. He cowered down. That's not Hrgovic. That wasn't Hrgovic at all. So that's why I feel like that's why I feel like the combination of his size, his amateur experience, his boxing skills, his punching power, Usyk can't outbox Hrgovic, and I don't think he can hurt him either. I really do think that's a bad fight for him, and that's why in the past when Usyk himself has been asked about fighting Filip Hrgovic, Anthony Joshua again, yes. Zhilei Zhang, yes. Joseph Parker, yes. But when it came down to Filip Hrgovic, he said no, absolutely not. So that's how I'm coming. I know I'm not trying to put Usyk down. Usyk is a great fighter. At this moment in time, I think Usyk is the baddest man on the planet. He's the undisputed champion. Once you become that, that's what you are. So I give him his flowers. I love Usyk. I've been singing Usyk's praises for a long time. But sometimes there's just fighters that have your number and they have the remedy to beat you. And this could be one of those cases. So we'll see. Personally, I'd rather see Usyk versus Hrgovic. I want him to clean out the division. I want to see him try. I definitely want to see him try and clean out the division. If he fights that Croatian, he ain't cleaning nothing out. If he beat Filip Hrgovic, I'd be very impressed. Because from a psychological standpoint, at this moment in time, I think Hrgovic is the most mentally strong fighter Usyk will have fought. Tyson Fury is very mentally strong, but the thing is, Tyson Fury, we all know going into the fight, he had got a lot of money and he was already showing signs of being a guy that had mentally checked out. The Ngannou fight showed us that, right? Joshua, we know, ain't the mentally strongest fighter in the division, right? Dubois is definitely not the most mentally strong fighter in the division. Hrgovic has been told and been basically frozen out by the boxing industry since the day he turned pro, pretty much. They don't want him, like the powers that be, they don't want him to be the champion. They don't want him to have the belt. And that's good. That's why when he becomes a champion, it's going to make it that all the much better because they didn't want him to be the champion. Usyk, what's crazy is, right, like, there was a point in time where Ukrainian fighters got mistreated, but like that hasn't been the case. And like if we're comparing the treatment of Ukrainian fighters to what Hrgovic had to go through as a fighter from Croatia, it's not even close. They get like world-class treatment compared to Hrgovic. It's crazy. I'm not sure if Usyk beats Fury again. I'm looking forward to finding out. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, man. But I think at some point I'd like to see them try to clean the division out. Usyk beating AJ twice and putting Fury on Queer Street it's a very good resume. Nah, look, he's earned the right to do whatever he wants. If he wants to retire and just chill and go to the Ukraine or go wherever he wants to go and live and kick his feet up, he can do that. He's that damn good. He's got nothing left to prove. He's completed boxing. But as a fight fan, if again, I can't overlook Dubois. If Hrgovic takes care of business with Dubois, I would like to see Usyk honor his mandatory and fight Hrgovic. And if not, then look, the Anthony Joshua got to come. One of these big names is gonna have to come see Filip Hrgovic. And if it's Anthony Joshua, then I want to congratulate Anthony Joshua in advance. It's been a great career. That'll be his last fight. I just don't understand why Usyk is getting a pass. If it was anyone else, it wouldn't be good enough. But now people want Usyk to retire. AJ basically fought everyone, and people weren't happy. I think a lot of it in history is the fact that Usyk has gone undisputed in two weight classes, and not just any two weight class, but it probably I would say in boxing that jump from cruiser to heavyweight might be the hardest in boxing. So to do it in those weight classes is why people are giving him so much credit. But I understand Anthony Joshua his shoulders were in pain from carrying the division for like 2-3 years fighting the top guys. So I get it, and it wasn't good enough for a lot of people. So I get where you're coming from. I want to see him fight Hrgovic at some point. Because I really do think that guy, I think Hrgovic has all those skills to probably give him an even tougher fight than Joshua ever gave him, and quite possibly even more than Fury. That's just me though. BT Prime Vlad versus Usyk. Who do you got? It's a good question. I'll go Usyk. I'll go Usyk in that fight. I go Usyk if I had to pick. I don't know, but you're right. I wasn't the biggest like fan of Vlad's style. Like Vlad, especially after once Vlad got with Emmanuel and learned the jab and grab style, it was a wrap. You know, Corey Sanders and all these guys from back in the day, Lamont Brewster beating the hell out of him when he actually was letting his hands go. You know, he didn't want no smoke no more. But you know, Vlad was a great fighter, man. I was actually watching Vlad. I watched Vlad. I'm gonna say it was like 3 months ago when I was in Vegas. When I was me, Eric Lantis Jr. and Angelo Leo. We were all hanging out one day watching some boxing, and I remember we were watching boxing for like 4 hours. And I remember one of the fights we watched was Derek Jefferson versus who was that guy? Maurice Harris. Derek Jefferson versus Maurice Harris. It was an HBO classic. And so I remember after I watched that fight, which by the way, if you've never seen Derek Jefferson versus Maurice Harris, please go watch it. It's one of the best fights ever. After I watched that fight, I actually had a chance to watch Derek Jefferson versus Vladimir Klitschko. And this was like one of Vladimir Klitschko's fights as a youngin, like defending the belts. And I'd never seen that fight before. And Derek Jefferson, you know, he was like a guy that picked up boxing late, but very explosive, freak athlete, could punch your lights out. Like probably one of the most underrated punchers in the heavyweight history. And Vlad just treated this guy like he was garbage. So like if you know, when I think about that version of Vlad could be Usyk. But it all depends on which would you guys say is the prime version of Vladimir Klitschko? Is it like that early part of his career? Like what fight would you say? Is it Pulev? Is it who is it, man? My man says, I like watching Vitaly. Well, if you like watching Vitaly, you'll like Filip Hrgović because he's like Vitaly Klitschko. He fights a lot like him. Got a lot of the same skills as Vitaly Klitschko. Big, tall, great size, good long straight right hand. He's a back foot slugger with sound defense. There's nobody that style I think has as closely resembled Vitaly's style in boxing other than Filip Hrgović. I think he's the one that he's basically in my opinion, I call him the third Klitschko. He's the third one. But yeah. That's how I feel. But look, guys, I wasn't planning on making this too long of a live. I just wanted to come on here and just give some quick thoughts on Taylo and Catterall and just kind of shoot the shit with you guys for a bit. Tomorrow, I should be live again tomorrow. I hope Pops is in Florida. So Pops did get back home, but he's not home right now. He's out and about right now, out on the town somewhere. If Pops is home tomorrow, I want to bring Pops on tomorrow to get his take on Catterall, Taylo, and Fury and Usyk. And I know he hasn't watched those fights, so I'm going to tell him to go watch those fights and then have him come on. And, you know, Pops always has something to say. So I'll bring him on tomorrow. And then I think Wednesday, it's not confirmed yet. I got to call him, but we did agree on a time. We did agree on a day. Sean Tatel is supposed to come on here on Wednesday. But I don't know if that's 100% yet. So I'm waiting to get the 100% confirmation, but he did tell me, yes, that was the day we're targeting. So, hopefully Pops tomorrow and then Sean Tatel on Wednesday. And then, I'll probably go live Thursday as well. And then, yeah, that's what it'll be. So, till then, I'm gonna continue to pound out this content, get closer to 75K, and hopefully I don't have a heart attack watching the Florida Panthers and New York Rangers because this series is driving me up a wall. But look, Kevin Effect says, BT, thanks for going live. As always, I appreciate your insight and thoughts, and I appreciate you too, Kevin. Thank you so much, and God bless you and your family. God bless everybody else in their family. And I'm gonna get out of here. You guys have a great night. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just kidding, Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.